Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about how hard fish keeping really is. I'm only joking. So all things that I hear all the time is people saying just how hard they find fish keeping and that it's impossible and it's so difficult and that they want to give up. I think the important thing is to start off with knowledge and to start off with a good base in your aquarium, because if you start off with everything right, then it's a lot easier later down the line. When people start off and they just chuck everything into a tank, you're going to get loads of problems and it's not going to be enjoyable. So I'm going to give you a few tips today from me to set up an aquarium so that it can be successful for the future and fish keeping will be more enjoyable. So one of my first tips would be decide what fish you want, because depending on what fish it is that you want will depend on how you set your tank up. Now there's general things to do with the tank. So one, tank size. Tank size will decide what kind of fish you can have and how many of them. And then you want to think about, depending on what fish they are, what ornaments you want in there, if you want anything at all. Going back to last week's video, you could want a bare bottom tank. So these are all things that you need to consider. Personally, I would always say go for the largest tank that you can A, afford, and B, have room for. Because I'll tell you now, when you've got a tank, give it a few weeks and you'll want another one, or a bigger one. So go as big as you can to begin with. If I could, I would literally have an entire wall as an aquarium. It's so addictive. I've got 6 tanks and a pond now. And that's only because that's all I've got room for. If I had room, there'd be a lot more, trust me. Choose your tank size, and then from there you can decide on how many fish and what fish you can keep. And depending on the fish, that will then go on to depend on what you need in the tank. If you're going to have a fish that you can have in a planted tank, and that's something you want, then you can have a plant substrate or sand or stone, and they all depend on whatever one you want, will depend on what you want to plant in it. Certain plants do better in certain substrates, certain plants aren't fussy and will grow in anything. I've got some Limnophila sessiflora, whatever it's called, and I've got that in the platy aquarium and that grows like mad. I cut it back all the time. I bought one stem of it and it's now in pretty much all of my tanks. He says there's none in this tank. Just ignore that. If you're not overly confident with keeping plants, something like that, so easy to keep, grows like mad, bright, vibrant green, it's so pretty to look at. So yeah, first of all, what tank you want, then what fish you want, and then what you want to do with your tank. So that will determine what substrate you have and what plants and what decorations you want in it. Some fish you don't really want to put plants in with because they will just eat them, destroy them, rip them up, like Malawi cichlids, or any cichlids for that matter. Generally, if you have a planted tank, they will just muzzle around in the substrate because that's what they love to do, and all your plants will just float away. Well, they're not going to float away, it's not a river, but they'll float to the top. So it is all about research, really. And the more research you put in at the beginning, the easier it's going to be for you at the end, because if you set everything up properly in the beginning, then everything's going to work fine. Another thing that you want to look into is lighting. Now, if you want to have a full planted tank, some people say, yeah, you need these really expensive lights and they won't grow, nothing will grow if you don't have these expensive lights. I tell you what, yes, if you can afford a light that's 500 quid, crack on, go and get it. But you really don't need it. I have got just cheap China lights on all of my tanks, and I have great plant growth. On this tank behind me, just down here, you can't really see it, but it's the one that was in my son's bedroom that he didn't want anymore. I've just got this cheap LED waterproof strip light. It's not very big, and all it is white, and I have good plant growth on there. This was something ridiculous, like £8 on eBay. I've had no problem with it whatsoever. So it all just depends on what you want, what your budget is, how much you want to spend. But if you want to just grow a few basic plants, any light will do. I've seen people that have got full planted aquariums with a desk lamp. So don't stress over it. You don't have to go out there and buy the most expensive things. It's not always going to be the way. Nothing I have in this fish room has cost hundreds of pounds. I haven't got hundreds of pounds to spend on it. So everything I do is as cheap as possible, and it's all on a budget. So look, I've literally got a slice of the Amazon behind me, and it doesn't cost a lot. You don't need to spend loads of money. Now, one of the things that I would say is most important is get your nitrogen cycle and the cycling of your tank done properly and correctly. I do have a video explaining all of this. I will link it up above as normal. Watch it after this, not now, because I want you to watch this. It's very interesting, it's very in-depth, but it's very simple. So if I can understand it, anybody can. So I've put it in very simple terms of how to cycle your tank. Now, that is one of the most important things. If you cycle your tank properly at the beginning, then you're going to have less problems further down the line, and that's where it comes in with the test kit. So to cycle your aquarium, you really need a test kit. You don't have to, there are ways to do it, but if you want to do it properly, then get a test kit. I've got a video, another plug, I've got a video which I'll tag here of the API Freshwater Master Test Kit, and that's a really good one to use. A lot of people say, oh no, I prefer this, I prefer that. Everybody's different. Use what you want to use, they all work. You need to test your water regularly, and that way if there's anything wrong in the tank, usually that can help you figure out what it is that's going wrong. If you don't have a test kit and you really can't afford one, again, if you're on a budget, a lot of people are, you can take a sample of your water into your local fish store and they will be more than happy to test it for you. If they're not and they get a bit groggy, they're not a good fish store, go somewhere else. Because as far as I'm concerned, if they care about the fish that they're going to sell you, then they care about your water quality. So it's all about education. If you don't know something, you don't know it. People shouting at you that you're doing everything wrong isn't going to help. So it's better to educate people than to shout at them. So that's what I want to do. I just want to help people get off to a good start in the beginning, and then you'll be set up for success for the rest of your fish keeping hobby. So like I say, my final emphasis would be research. Before you buy anything, don't go out and buy a tank, buy loads of fish, everything goes wrong, and then go on a Facebook forum and go, help, why is everything going wrong? Before you do it, have a good research, have a good Google, and find out everything you want to know. Everything you need to know about the fish, about the tank, about the type of filtration you want to use, heater. If anybody wants a actual video on me setting up a specific tank so that I can show you exactly what goes into it, then let me know in the comments. But I just think research is key, really. There's no need for fish keeping to be difficult, and it can be as easy as you make it. But it all starts on a good foundation to begin with. If you do it properly to begin with, the rest of the hobby will be so much easier. If it was really that difficult, would I be sat here with 6 tanks? No. I'm lazy. If it was that hard, I wouldn't even have one. So give it a go. There's no reason why not. You can pick up cheap tanks on Facebook. The only thing I would say definitely buy brand new is a heater, purely because I have had a second-hand heater go dodgy on me, and it literally cooked my entire tank of fish, and that was gutting. So I would say buy a brand new heater, because they come with a warranty, and if it does that, then you're covered from that company then, and they would have to replace everything. So just make sure you get a heater that's going to work. I would never risk using a second-hand heater again. They're not even expensive. Depending on the size of your tank, depends on what size heater you need. But if you've got sort of like a mid-range tank, the heaters are about a tenner. So don't scrimp on that, because it's really not worth it. Otherwise, all the money you've spent on everything else is just pointless, because it'll all just get killed off. So yeah, a bit of a random one this week. I can't get out anywhere to go and do anything. For next week's video, we have been fortunate enough to be able to arrange to go back to the fish store on the A43 in Northamptonshire, and we're going to meet with the owner and get a tour around, and hopefully we'll be able to see some of the fish up close and personal, and he's an absolute wealth of knowledge, so that should be a really good one to watch. So make sure that you click subscribe, because you won't want to miss that next week. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. I hope you found that sort of useful. If it's something you already know, then great. If it's not something you know, then I hope it helped. Let me know in the comments if you've got any specific questions about anything. Drop a like on the video to help the algorithm so more people can see it. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when I post. I hope you all have an amazing week, and I will see you next week for the really interesting video of the fish store. So I'll see you next week, guys. Bye!